All right, so this is a video that will finish up the notes for key issue 2 of chapter 11. We left off with notes on bulk gaining versus bulk reducing industries. I made another mistake here. So I changed a couple things here, guys. In your notes, bulk gaining industries tend to locate near markets. Bulk reducing industries tend to locate near raw materials. So I apologize for that. I messed this slide up pretty good. Made some changes to it. Here's why. Let's start with bulk gaining industries. Here's why bulk gaining industries, like for example, like a pop company like Coca-Cola, they tend to locate near markets. They tend to locate like their bottling facilities where they fill up the bottles for Coca-Cola. They tend to locate those near markets because think about it. If you had an empty pop bottle versus a filled up pop bottle, like a 2-liter bottle of pop, which is going to weigh more? It's the filled up 2-liter bottle of pop. And so because that weighs more, that represents a higher transportation cost. And so because of that, these bulk gaining industries in which the product gains weight, so when it gains weight, it's going to cost more in terms of transportation. They're going to locate it closer to their markets where they sell it to cut down on the cost of transporting that heavy material, those heavy bottles of pop. You put all those bottles of pop together on a truck, it gets pretty heavy. So they're not going to locate those bottling plants far away near where they get their plastics and their water. They're going to locate it near their markets so they can ship them out as quickly as possible and over the shortest distances. A bulk reducing industry is something that loses weight. So this is something that starts off really heavy and then loses weight during the production process. A good example of this would be like copper smelting. So when they make the copper pipes and wires used in building homes, different types of machines, even computers, that copper starts out as a big bulky material. It's really heavy. So a factory or refinery is going to locate near a copper mine or a copper mill. And then as they break the copper down, they burn off the impurities. That copper becomes a lot lighter in terms of weight. And so now it's cheaper to transport over a longer distance. And so therefore, if you're a copper company, you're going to locate your factory, your refinery near where the copper mine is, near your raw materials. This is that peer deck. You don't have to worry about this right now. If you want to go back and try this question out, make sure you know the difference between bulk reducing and bulk gaining industries. Here's some examples of bulk gaining industries. Steel fabrication is one. Because as you refine steel and weld it together with other steel beams and other building parts, steel becomes really heavy. Microwaves, air conditioners, refrigerators, you put those products together, they become a lot heavier, so it gains weight. Pop, like we mentioned in class, gains weight. An example of a bulk reducing industry would be copper smelting, like I mentioned. This is just like the production process, which you don't have to know. But to make copper. And to find more information on this, you could read in your textbook, page 403, that helps reinforce that. Other types of production methods include what's known as single market manufacturing. What those manufacturers are is they usually have one or two main customers. An example your book uses would be companies that produce zippers or buttons, ties, things like that, things that are used to make coats, pants, different types of textiles. And because they just have one or two main customers, the people who make the coats and the pants and the textiles, they're going to locate their production facilities right near the customers because they can get it out to them as quickly as possible. Another example would be just-in-time delivery. This is becoming more popular nowadays because what just-in-time delivery is it's a manufacturing process in which companies can order parts and products from another company and get it delivered that day. This is a lot easier today thanks to new transportation, shipping, trucking, airports, planes, transportation methods make it easier to get products to and from a place in a quick amount of time. And what are the benefits to a company that engages in just-in-time delivery? Take, for example, car parts. Say a car dealership or a car manufacturer that makes cars, they will buy their parts when they need them. So they don't stock up on parts. Like, for example, tires. When they need new tires, they'll order them. The tires can be delivered that day or the next day. That way they don't take up their back room or their warehouse with a large amount of tires. They have more space. It costs less to store products, and they can order them quickly, and they'll get there quickly. Some perishable products that are out there that have to locate near markets would be things like dairy products, milk, newspapers. But because of modern technology today, modern refrigeration techniques that keep milk preserved and lasting longer, along with newspapers, the internet today, you can get newspaper news, not just in the form of print, but through the internet. So that perishability, how it expires, it doesn't have as much of an impact as it used to. 50, 60, 70 years ago, before modern refrigeration and the internet, people had to get their milk delivered to them on a daily basis. They had to get newspapers delivered to them on a daily basis. Nowadays, you could get the news at the touch of a button. Dairy products, milk products, those get preserved for a much longer time thanks to modern refrigeration. This was just like a little exit slip after these few questions, after these few slides. How well do you understand what we've just covered? Don't worry about that because we're not interactive anymore. Hopefully I can use that again in the future. This shows current milk production. So notice that not all milk production is in the United States or in a certain country. It's throughout the world, which is important because a lot of Europeans, they get milk that's produced there. The chance of you guys receiving milk products from another country is really slim because by the time it reaches our country, it's perished. It's not good anymore. So therefore, a lot of the milk and dairy products we use are made in either the United States, Canada, or Mexico because of the perishability of the product. This is something called supply chain management. And this is really important for companies, and this just shows how companies operate in terms of supply chain management. Companies rely on certain raw materials to make their products. So, for example, a company that produces makes fast food products or makes cars, their raw materials they would extract from the ground or pay somebody, the supplier, for the raw materials. They would then take those raw materials and manufacture them into products that they need. They would distribute them to their retail locations, and then from their retail locations, they're sold to customers. So this little image here pretty much depicts how a product goes from its production methods, how it's produced, to how it's sold. The key here is the relationship between suppliers, people who supply the raw materials to the business, and then how the business themselves sells the product. Okay? And because of that, we have what are known as break of bulk points. Break of bulk points are airports, ports, different truck terminals, shipping terminals that make it easy to transport goods like this from place to place. So, for example, if a car is produced, say, in Belvidere, which is maybe 20, 25 miles away, say at the Chrysler plant in Belvidere, the car is loaded onto a truck. The truck takes the cars to maybe a shipping port on the Mississippi River. The cars are shipped on the Mississippi River and then are sold in New Orleans. The port in New Orleans, the truck terminal in Belvidere, those would be examples of break of bulk points. Today, because of new transportation, break of bulk points are a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to ship goods and products not only domestically but throughout the world. And this slide deals with how the steel landscape, the steel mills in our country has changed over time. The steel mills at the time started out in the mid-1800s up until about the mid-1900s in the Midwest because of the availability of iron ore and coal. And over time, because iron ore and coal has been cheaper and easier to produce elsewhere, today many of the steel mills that are still around are located along the East Coast and the West Coast. The East Coast and the Midwest. Thanks to the lighter inputs. The inputs is something that you use to make your product. So before, a lot of the coal was found just in Pennsylvania, in the Midwest, as it was found in lighter amounts or cheaper inputs were used. Today, many of our steel industries are found along the East Coast and in the Midwest. I'm running out of time here. I'll start another video to finish up the notes. Go to video 2.